golden thread does really bind all of the other threads together. It doesn't matter what your endeavor happens to be, whether it's education, whether it's business, whether it's the law, science and technology, the arts. You've got to have that predictability. You've got to understand how things are going to move and shake, or at least when, so that you can know when changes are going to happen. You can plan, you can move forward. That's sort of that heartbeat. And we can plan around it. We can't always well predict the results, and that's okay, but we know it's going to happen. We can trust that. Without elections, the entire fabric of our society disintegrates. And there are folks who are tugging at that golden thread right now. And without mincing words, we heard a particular candidate say several times very clearly, if you vote for me, you're never going to have to vote again. And then upon taking office, dismantled, essentially, the Cyber Security Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, part of the Department of Homeland Security. The very same agency, by the way, that kept Arizona's, helped very much keep Arizona's elections solid in 2024. Through CISA, we were able to conduct trainings for elections officials, law enforcement officials. We even had a tabletop exercise for members of the media so that if something happened, we'd know how to respond together as a community. Did you know that on Election Day in 2024, right here in the Grand Canyon State, we had 24 bomb threats on Election Day? A lot of people don't know that. And you know why? Because the biggest disruption that we had was a 20-minute long wait for some voters up in a remote polling place in Navajo County. And why was it that with that many bomb threats across the state, we were able to respond so quickly, diffuse the circumstances, and get back to the business at hand? Because we had a partner like CISA, who has now been completely neutered and taken away from us as elections administrators, no longer available for communication. Rest assured, as the Secretary of State, I've written my sternly worded letters to the appropriate authorities in Washington, D.C. But they also included the following. Hey, you're a new administration. Awesome. Rearrange the deck chairs. Just don't take any of the resources away. Don't take the safety away. Don't take the security away. Don't take the training away. Don't take the inspections away. And they have. And so we don't exactly know how 2026 is going to happen. That's kind of rough. But that's not the only thing that the current administration has done as against that golden thread. Another tug was the first executive order against our elections administrators. Now, thankfully, we've got attorneys general across the country who have gone to court and gotten an injunction on that executive order, which I think is illegal. If you read Article 1, Section 4, the first paragraph of the Constitution, it says that the time, place, and manner of our elections be dealt with by the states. It's a state duty. It does go on to say that the Congress can make some laws regarding that, but nowhere does it say that the President of the United States can rule by fiat when it comes to how it is that we perform our elections. Our democracy is being challenged by one of the branches of our government. That's a pretty significant space. And it's a different place than we've ever been as a republic. But that's not all we've seen. Those challenges continue and the threats continue, with letters to secretaries of state all over the country asking that we turn over all of our voters' information, including sensitive personal identifying information that it's illegal to turn over. They're saying it, bring it to the Department of Justice. I sent a letter saying, why? And after several different types of explanations, they're all on furlough, so they're not asking anymore. So that's what happens sometimes when you delay. But we're still fighting that fight across the country. And the Department of Justice has sued several states to get this information. And that request, in my view, does violate the Privacy Act of 1974. And as long as I'm the Secretary of State, and if you're an Arizona voter, I'm going to protect your personal identifying information. I don't care who you vote for, as long as that information is safe. And I'm not going to turn it over. But getting away from a little bit of the specifics, pardon me, about how it is that our democracy is under threat, let's talk a little bit about sort of the space that we operate in right now, where it is sort of the thing where people just can't talk to one another. And I think people feel threatened. You know, it's rough. It's rough out there when you hear people saying, well, I can't talk to my neighbor, or I can't talk to my family member anymore, or I've lost friends. That's a tough thing, right? And I think we have forgotten that it's not the person that we disagree with. Justice, you and I probably disagree on plenty of things. But I don't think you're evil. Some of your ideas are. No, I'm just kidding. We disagree, but we can do it without being disagreeable, okay? And I think that's what's critically important. But here's the important thing about the views of the other. Because we all tend to stand on a little bit of sanctimony. I don't care what side of the spectrum that you're on. We've all got someone we disagree with. But in the tradition of the founders, those Enlightenment thinkers, those rationalists, I ask and implore you, consider the idea of the other not to decide whether or not they are correct, but to test your own assertions, preconceived notions, and ideas to determine whether or not you are correct. Utilize the diversity of perspectives that exist in this nation. We can turn the opposition into a positive, to test ourselves, to listen very carefully to what the other is saying without villainizing them. The opposing view is valuable to you because it helps you figure out if you're the one that's full of it or not. And that is an expression of humility. It's also a very mature way to look at the world. It relieves you of petulance and the preconceived notion that you have to be right because it's coming from you. That's hard for some people to do. But I think if we start to talk to folks about, well, you know, I heard so-and-so talking and it made me think about what I was thinking. Modeling that kind of behavior may be a secret to helping some of the most stalwart folks on our side of the aisle open up their minds a little bit, open up their attitudes a little bit, and maybe open up their hearts a little bit to this notion of humility. And I think one of the most critical components of why it is that we are here, to protect that golden thread, to have a society where we can have this diversity of views. The diversity of views, by the way, which developed almost all of what the human species has experienced over the last several decades, at least the last couple centuries. Think about it. Just 250 years ago, we had that Declaration of Independence. Well, 249 and a little bit, half-ish. And why is it that the Constitution we operate under is the longest standing Constitution on the face of the earth right now? Why is it that most of the great advances of humanity in medicine, in arts, in the sciences, in business, in communication, in exploration of the stars, in all of the things that humanity has been able to advance, most of the folks from other countries that have made those kinds of advancements, guess where they were trained? Right here in the United States of America. I still think we do have the greatest nation in the world. But I think we're the greatest nation in the world because of our diversity. Now, don't get me wrong. This isn't a bleeding heart liberal diversity sort of a speech. Because I'm not talking about diversity of skin color or religion or nation of origin or language or any of that stuff. I'm talking about the diversity of ideas that those Enlightenment thinkers, those rationalists understood and accepted as part of the great deliberative bodies that they set up in the United States Senate, the body that represents the people in the Congress and the House of Representatives. You see, by embracing the notion that there is a diversity of ideas and people coming from all over the world and their perspectives and their unique experiences coming together, that is what has given us advancements. That is where we are able to experiment with ideas and let the best ones rise to the top. And we, at this stage, in the development of this republic, are the inheritors, the great beneficiaries of this. And what are we doing with it? We're asking folks to think the same thing that we think and reject the other. We're asking folks to reject diversity of thought insisting that we are right. That flies against the notion that out of many we are one. It flies against the notion that we together are the people, not just a few. It flies against the notion that in practice has been fought against mightily by some. But when it comes to determining who our leadership is, the one true American tradition is the expansion of that franchise so that finally women could vote and people of color could vote. And it was only 1974 that the first Americans were fully enfranchised to be part of that decision-making process, to be active players in keeping that golden thread that holds this fabric together. It's okay to admit our flaws, but in those flaws, we have to recognize our advancements and the progress that we've made. This more prosperous, more beneficial future with more opportunities, this can continue to be ours. But we've got to get to a place where we can reject the myopia. And I don't exactly know how to do it. I'd be on a book tour all over the world if I knew how to do that right now. Democracy doesn't run on autopilot. It requires action. And that brings me to the point that I'm going to close with here. Nick Cave. Some of you know him. He's a musician, a poet, sort of out there in the alternative world. Punk rock a little bit of rejecting the norms. He said something that another former president said, but he opened it up a little bit more. As I have, saying, democracy is the economy, stupid. He took this notion of hope to the next level. The notion of hope, which is the reason every single one of you is here. You're here because you're hoping that we can figure out a way to do America better. In the broadest stroke. But I'm here to tell you that the Barack Obama version of hope, the hopey-changey-feely stuff, that's not what hope really is. I'm more of a Princess Leia version of hope. Because if the Princess Leia version of hope was truly stated well, it would be in these three words. Hope is adversarial. Hope is adversarial. It is hope as against hunger, hope as against injustice, hope as against oppression, hope as against exclusion, hope as against sickness, hope as against poverty, hope as against ignorance. Not a single one of those hopes will come to fruition without action behind the hope. Democracy does not run on autopilot. It requires active participation by every single person in that democracy. And that is where this organization comes in. That is where we are obliged to spread the good word. Republicans, Democrats, Independents, Greens, no labels, Libertarians, let's include everybody. Why not? We have to do this together so that we can happily disagree later with a little bit of kindness, a little bit of filial love, and a little bit of a willingness to test our own ideas as against others. Hope is adversarial, and we have a hell of an adversary out there. We've got a hell of an adversary. And the only way to overcome that adversary and get to the place where we can have those conversations and agree to disagree and agree to laugh about our disagreements with a fine jurist over here who's almost always wrong. The way we do that is together, through hard work, hard conversations, a lot of dedication, and the willingness to be humble, even in the face of our adversaries. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Here?
So we're going to do a little audible on our program here today. Steven is stuck on an airplane getting in here. When he comes, we'll get him up here at Gate Versus. We have a panel of the roof full together right now. Adrian, you don't know it, but I was looking at the pats.
I saw the pointing.
Thank you. We'd like to introduce to the stage, if I could, John Giles. John served as 40th mayor of Mesa, Arizona from 2014 through 2025. A lifelong Mesa resident and gold to BA Bolick Science Review by you, and the JD from ASU San Diego College of Law. So the forks up. Before becoming mayor, you practiced law locally for nearly 30 years, and also served on the Mesa City Council. Under his leadership, the city launched initiatives like Mesa College of Promise, a downtown renovation district with ASU, the strong climate action agenda. He's also an endurance athlete, Ironman. How many Ironmans do you do? 2 18 or 3? Marathon runners?
20.
20? Okay, the unique word, James, and all. He's run a lot of marathons as well. And I personally think John has been a shining example of living by principles on his actions as mayor and as just a good man in our community. So thank you, John, for joining us, and I'm bringing the people back from the stage.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, for your flexibility here. And I'm telling you, we're a national grassroots organization, so we were just scrappy and we figured out and we get it done. So I want to get started and say, Secretary, as you're talking about othering and the idea of the other, and I feel like we see a lot of that in our politics, unfortunately. Even today, an organization not too far from here said that they're going to do their American halftime show during the Super Bowl, and I think that's kind of silly, and I think there is nothing more American than the Super Bowl itself, and being able to enjoy that. So when we think about the future and what our next elections look like, how do we come together and stop othering one each other?
Well, first we got to continue to be brave enough to tell the truth in the face of the nonsense. And I think that requires folks that are closest to the nonsense tellers. It pains me that, being on the political left as a Democrat, what's difficult for me is watching so many of my friends on the political right maintain silence in the face of all of this nonsense. They're not holding their colleagues to account. And they're not pushing back against them. Now, I've had plenty of fights with my friends on the political left, so I've walked that talk a little bit myself, and I could probably do a little bit better here and there. But that takes real guts, right? And I think that's just one of many ways that we can do this. But there is no magic sauce. We're fighting against a very well studied, very well strategized, and very well executed rhetorical war against the American ethos writ large. And there's a lot of us that can see right through it. But the question that you're asking is, how do we get to the folks who can't see through it? They've kind of fallen victim. And I don't have the answer to that. I'm not that kind of sociologist or communication professional. I know John does.
No, I don't have a good answer for that, but I love the question because I love that it opens our eyes to that. Really, that's the kernel of the problem here is we see a lot of othering going on in our nation right now, right? That's, I can't, I'm still, Adrian's last comments about the importance of hope is still kind of resonating with me. I had an interesting, I spent the morning on an airplane coming back from visiting a new grandchild, and so I kind of binged a couple of hours of CNN, and that's not a healthy thing to do for any of us, right? So, I mean, I was swinging the pendulum from despair to hope to some, trying to stay a little bit in the middle. And one of there's a lot of reasons for despair, and I think I'm here to sound the warning cry from local government that we're looking at. The normal world is in between the extremes, right? And that's where most of us in this room, I think, live and want to live. And we're trying to expand that space and and invite more of our neighbors to be in that centrist political place. So on the airplane today, there was an interview with Marjorie Taylor Greene from on the CNN, and I thought, oh my gosh, I don't know if this might be a good time to watch another Harry Potter movie or something. But I stuck it out and I watched this, and I'm so glad I did, because you would not have I thought about typing a comment saying, where is Marjorie Taylor Greene? What have you done with her? Is she okay? Whoever you've sent to replace her would like to keep her for a while, but just want to make sure that she's okay. Because what she was so critical of the partisan shutdown of the government right now, and she was so critical of Republican leadership, and she was so critical of folks who wanted to be protective of people that were protecting pedophiles, and just all of these things she was not towing the party line very well at all. And I thought, you know what, there's hope for this. Princess Leia was right. There is hope for this galaxy if Marjorie Taylor Greene can, if you can see some redeeming qualities there. So, she really was quite lovely. I was shocked. But to me, that was wonderful, because coming from this kind of pessimistic, the world is not, there's no centrist left in government or in politics or in the world, attitude that is now creeping into local politics. And I'm looking at my good friend, Mesa City Council member under recall, Julie Spilsbury, right now, is the poster child of what I'm talking about. Adrian's right. Let's rally. Let's continue to think that we need to be fighting for hope. That hope needs to fight, push us to that fight to find a centrist presence in government, and for us to agree that it's okay to be a good Democrat or a bad Democrat, or a good Republican or a bad Republican. Let's just try to get some consensus.
Well, I think it's interesting that you brought up the interview with MTG. I know we talked about it a little bit earlier, and I caught it too. And to anyone, it was definitely an interesting watch if you follow her career. And I think in this moment, maybe we've seen some people be unexpectedly vocal. I would say maybe that's one of them. But we also have heroes who have been very vocal for a long time. Mayor, you're one of them. So I wonder if you would mind sharing with the audience, as you took stances that perhaps were against what your party thought should be said, what was sort of that moment for you that said this is the right thing to do?
Well, let me go back to this notion that I think local government has always been. The city councils, school boards have always been that place that was a safe place. That's where the people go that want to solve problems. If you want to engage in partisan bickering, go to the legislature, go to Washington, D.C. You can engage in all that you want. But if you want to solve problems, come to local government. And so that's what drew me to that type of service years ago. And for most of my service, I would go through contortions to avoid putting that at risk, right? I would avoid partisanship wherever I could, because I thought it would interfere with my ability to function with the Republicans and the Democrats that I sat on councils with, and that would come to talk about potholes and things that were bipartisan, right? And then I departed from that about 2 years ago, in the last time we had a gubernatorial race, because one of the candidates made it clear that she was putting cities in, that she had formed an alliance with the Freedom Caucus of the legislature, and they had an anti-city agenda. And I thought, how do I be a good mayor and not take a side in this? It's not about partisanship. It's about how do I protect my city from what's going to be very detrimental. And so I broke my rule about becoming partisan and did an endorsement in that situation. And similarly, there was a very extreme candidate in the United States Senate seat then, so I endorsed Senator Kelly. And so at that point, I became, a bad Republican, and started to get some of that flack. And then 2 years after that, I figured, what the hell, I'm just going to go ahead and do it anyhow. And so I did another round of endorsements again, but because some of my more angry Republican friends would say, you don't do it. Why don't you just declare yourself a Democrat? Because you only endorse Democrats. And I said, no, here's the ballot. Here's 2 or 3 names where I've endorsed Democrats. And then here's 12 or 15 names where I haven't, or I've been endorsing Republicans. But so I think, and if I had it to do over again, I would not change a thing. And I recommend it to everyone. Be a bad Republican. We don't. This is but the last story I'll share. But in speaking on I was asked to speak on this topic at a Harris rally in Glendale. The thing was full of people, and the phrase that I coined was, "You don't know that other party a damn thing. You just need to come out and vote for the best candidate, vote your conscience, and don't feel like you have an allegiance, that you out of some sort of obligation need to vote for a particular party." And they must have liked that line, because shortly after that I was invited to speak at the Democratic National Convention. And I figured, well, this is going to be, a few folding chairs in the lobby. Sure, I'll come. Ends up they don't do it that way. I literally spoke right before Michelle Obama it was crazy. But I showed up and I said, I'd sent my speech in, weeks before. I've been practicing it on the phone, on the plane getting there. And when I got there, they said, "Hey, we rewrote your speech. Here it is." And I said, "Oh my gosh." She said, "Oh, no. This is all stuff that you've said before, but we just needed, to tweak it a little bit." So I read it, and there were 3 dams in it, and I said, "My wife won't let me come back to Arizona. I'm good for 1 dam." So I repeated the phrase about you don't owe that party a damn thing, but I took all the other dams out. So there's bad language when you really mean it. All right.
Well, as a fellow bad Republican, I'm damn proud of that, so thank you.
Thank you.
It's really refreshing to hear that, and I wish that we had more politicians who, and I'm sure everyone in this audience does too, because that's probably why you're here, who had a backbone. And I feel like we're sort of missing that these days. And politics has never really had a good reputation, right, of being like the best, and everyone's hunky-dory and the best people, even though they should be, because they're public servants. But as we look across this audience, obviously a lot of civically engaged people, but for those who maybe have never been involved before and don't know how to get involved and say what's going on is kind of crazy, maybe they don't know a word to put to it, how do we, as just everyday Americans who are taking our kids to school, going to soccer practice with them after, have to put food on the table and Coke and all of that, how do we check power of the executive, of our elected officials?
I think, first of all, we have to understand what that power actually is and who's actually doing it. So we have, in my view, there's 2 types of folks in public service. There's the type of folk who define themselves through the public service. In other words, I am the senator, I am the representative, I am the mayor, I am whatever. And then there's some folks, and I like to consider myself part of the other category, I am essentially a trustee of the office of Secretary of State. I happen to be the embodiment of that office right now, but that ain't gonna last forever. I have a family, I have friends, I have stuff that I like to do. Me and Joe are going to go have tequila soon. I mean, this is like one of those fun, thank you for that, sir. So that's sort of the folks that are there. Keeping those folks in check, I think there's 2 different ways to do it. With folks who get the notion that they're just kind of doing the job for now and hopefully doing the best that they can do. These are folks that you can approach. And it's not super complicated. There's plenty of folks that I've worked with on different stuff. I'm looking around the room and I see faces that I've worked with who've worked on campaigns and different projects and stuff. Talk to us. The difficulty is the folks who get their identity from the office itself. And I think that's one of the problems. I don't think we have enough people who are coming into public service who have that more Jeffersonian notion of public service that I'm going to serve for a time. And I'm going to do the best that I can while I'm there. Right? And looking carefully at it and then taking the time out of their life, away from their career and their families, and sacrificing a little bit for the sake of the whole. Like, John, you didn't have to run for office. I didn't have to run for office. But you're the kind of guy who's going to look and say, well, this is where I can get problems solved, and over here's where I just kind of can fight a little bit. But the notion really is this. What I think we need better of isn't just to have folks that we're going to need to convince to do better jobs. I think we need to get better people generally into these offices so that we can, have better results and not have to do that convincing afterwards. And there are plenty of people in this room, I'm sure, who may have considered running for public office back in the day or are considering now and have thought, I don't know if I want to get beat up personally. I don't know if I want to take the time. I don't know. Y'all, it's a kick in the pants. It's fun. I enjoy the hell out of it. Are there headaches? Yeah. Does your life get threatened once or twice a week? Sure. But look, you're doing good stuff and you're doing good service. And if there were more people who had sort of this, let's just get some work done attitudes, the whole thing, I think, would be a hell of a lot easier and a hell of a lot better. And we wouldn't have to do extra work on the backside. Now, to your question, what do we do with the folks that are there now? If we have the capacity, confront them. Confront them. This is our right as Americans. I mean, let's not forget, it wasn't that long ago that the Tea Party movement was up in front of school boards, up in front of city councils, talking about things that were not germane to school board or city council work. And we saw that the impact that had. Even today, we're seeing some folks who are opening their eyes and ears to a variety of different ideas, as uncomfortable as it may be. This is what citizenship is all about. We shouldn't shy away from the fight. We shouldn't be mean about it, I don't think. But there's a conversation to be had. I mean, the reason I ran in 2016 in the first place wasn't because I thought I would win. In fact, my campaign manager, the first time we met, he looked me dead in the eye and he said, "You know you're not going to win." And I said, "Yeah, but that's not the point. The point is that here's this public official who hasn't performed well and had never been challenged by a Democrat. This is 2016. She first became the county recorder in 1988. 28 years without somebody standing up and saying, hey, you need to fix what you're doing, or I'm going to convince people to vote for me and get you out of here. And I think one of the reasons that we don't have sort of the right type of stuff happening is because we have so many folks who just don't get challenged, who just are in that lane, in that vein of their party, whether it's a deep blue district and they're running off to the left, or it's a dark red district and they're scurrying off to the right, and they don't have to have those conversations. We've got to get out there and challenge these folks. We've got to get out there and have these conversations with them. This is our job. And again, and I'm glad you picked up on that, hope is adversarial thing, right? And yeah, the Princess Leia version is better. She didn't know that bending over and putting that little SD drive into R2-D2 was going to ultimately get those plans onto that other ship, and then to the analysts who are going to find the weakness, and then eventually Luke Skywalker throws it. Like, she didn't know. She was hoping. But she did that one thing. She did that one thing. Every single one of us can do that one thing. And we got to find out where our talents are, where our connectivity is, where our networks are, and then get the job done. That's what our duty is as citizens.
Can I just quickly underline and say amen to this is the mic drop in moment for the night is we all need to take a call to action from this event. And the call to action is you need to get some nice, normal people, some bipartisan people to run for school boards and city councils, because they are under attack right now. There is an honest to goodness conspiracy to partisanize and those very basic government units in our communities that have been the pillar of our communities. And there's very calculated campaigns being launched to turn them into just reflecting partisan agendas. And so please have your eyes open to that. And if you talk the good people into running and tell them, I talked this woman into running for city council, and she said, I have no desire in doing that. I'm interested in being on the school board. And I said, I promise you, you'll have a bigger impact on the education and the schools in our community if you serve on the city council, because wonderful things, you can change the world on a city council.
Yeah, how do you feel about getting talked into that now, Spilsbury? Huh?
I'm sorry, Julie. But I mean, we all need to see that you can change the world in some of these local government races. And please talk to your neighbors and your children and the people you go to church with and say, yeah, you're going to get a lot of crap, but you're going to sleep well at night if you go in and you do it right, because we're in desperate need of those people.
And it's not just a conspiracy. There has been, and I think there will be legislation to try to make school boards and nonpartisan municipal races into partisan races, which I think is a terrible thing. Yeah.
I do want to take a few audience questions. Okay, on me. Yes, go ahead.
My name is Mike Isuera. I'm from Gilbert, Arizona, and I belong to Voter Choice Arizona. We were invited to come to this meeting. This is my first experience with Principles First, but I'm glad I came. I love our speakers. All of them did a great job. I would just like to make the point. Bad systems beat good people 90+% of the time. It's no coincidence that municipal politics are leading the way because they have a nonpartisan election. Mm-hmm. Would you please comment on, Adrian, you commented on how our election system is the golden thread and how the threats to it and taking away the support at a federal level is threatening that golden thread. But I don't believe you went far enough in talking about our election system, how it is actually disincentivizing candidates from running and people from putting principles over party. Because when when an elected official decides whether to vote for a bill or not, he asks one question. He doesn't ask, is this good policy? He doesn't ask, is this what my constituents want? He asks, I vote for this bill, am I going to be primaried next time?
So I think that's a great question, but I'm going to split a hair here. In the world of election administration, we see things in two very, very different spaces. One of them is the administration of the election, qualifying electors, creating ballots, supplying spaces and equipment for voters to do their thing, and then gathering up the ballots, doing the tabulation, certification, all that stuff. That's the administration of the election. What you're talking about is the qualification for the ballot. You're talking about how folks go from nomination into primaries and generals and that sort of thing. And that's very much the political thing. And the parties have a monopoly on that because the parties have the partisans who wrote the rules. I think it's a wonderful thing that most of our elections in Arizona are nonpartisan, the vast majority, because the vast majority are city councils, school boards, and so forth. So what you're talking about is sort of a narrow space, and that happens to be our our county, state, and federal elections. Municipal and school board, there's tons and tons of them. And I'm nerding out a little bit here for a second. I apologize for that. We have a system that was created by the parties to keep the parties in power and to keep the partisans in check by the parties. There's no question about that. Your example, if I vote for it this way, is this better policy or is it better politics? Right? And how do we get away from that? Well, I've long been an advocate for figuring out ways to get away from that. In 2019, I was a bit of a pariah in the Democratic Party because I wanted the 2020 presidential preference election for the Democrats to be open to independents or nonpartisans. And I got beat up on that. But I got about 40% of the vote at the state committee meeting because I figured opening it up would bring those independents in, and our candidates would have to talk to the independents as well for the primary, right? Opening up who these politicians are accountable for. Now, as a partisan myself, as a Democrat, it's very, very dangerous for me to sit up here and say, yeah, the parties have too much control. It's very politically dangerous. But, you know, my party hasn't helped me a hell of a lot along the way, so, you know, screw them. I mean, I'm kidding. There's a lot of Democrats in here. I think that we're in a place right now in this country, and we are definitely in Arizona. You can see it by the numbers, where the parties, because of their partisanship and because of their inability to move policy forward, are far less popular than they've ever been. And I measure that by the popularity of the nonpartisan voter. It used to be that Arizona was, 40% or more Republican, 40% or more Democratic, and then the nonpartisans. Oh, Jesus. Stephen Richer, everybody. How you doing, my friend? It's so good to see you. John, you were talking about reading a Harry Potter book, and this guy shows up.
I was listening to some of this actually.
So I think there are ways to do this. Okay, and there's a lot of different ways to do this. Alaska's been experimenting, California's been experimenting, a lot of different places have been experimenting with, open primaries or ranked choice voting or a lot of these other sorts of things. I think those are all reasonably good ways to approach this. I think it's too soon to tell whether or not they're working well, but I think the notion is getting that recognition out there, that this is a problem. And again, the evidence is very, very clear. The parties are unpopular because the partisans are unpopular. Because the partisans aren't getting anything done. All we got to do is look to the other side of the Mississippi River to see what's going on over there, right? So I don't know that there's a magic sort of a wand that we can wave, but it certainly is something that I think we should watch what's happening in other places for now. Yeah.
Okay, but everything's unpopular right now. All parts of government.
You're not. Everybody loves you
I
still.
don't, because I'm out of government now. My students love me. So what responsibility do you have as an elected official to try to regain, without changing the whole system, and I happen to have great sympathy for that question, but confidence in Congress is all at an all-time low, confidence in just government libraries is at an all-time low. Confidence in the Supreme Court is on an all-time low. Approval ratings of President Trump are low. Approval ratings of Democrats are even lower. So what can you do just starting tomorrow as an elected official to make people believe in American government again?
Well, in my corner of the world, we're actually doing okay. There was a poll that recently came out that shows that confidence in Arizona's election systems is up 12% from 2021 to 2025. That's a major increase. And confidence is up 37% among Republicans.
Yeah, I worry about that a little bit just because it's the result of the 2024 elections. I worry about that, but I'll give you credit. I'll give you lots of credit. Lots of good stuff has happened.
So we'll continue. I appreciate the credit with the qualification. But what's important here is that we're actually moving the chains, okay? And I'll take the wins where I can get the wins, particularly in that space. But I think what we have to do is what you did as county recorder and what I've done and what the board of supervisors did while you're there. Just continue to tell the truth, continue to tell the truth, and continue to tell the truth. But tell it loud. Be direct in challenging the nonsense. It's like I said earlier, you've got to challenge those folks that are spewing the lies. You got to kind of get in their faces a little bit because they have to back down. They don't have truth on their side.
John, what would you say? What would you say to city council members who are encountering Mesa residents or elsewhere who say, we just don't buy, we don't trust government right now?
I think a great way to, and local elected officials traditionally always test higher than everybody, right?
Yes.
But, and I think the way that we double down on that and that we demonstrate and cultivate even more good faith is if we have Republicans and Democrats that are walking out and saying, to Mr. LeSueur's point, the system is broken. We are getting bad candidates because it's baked into this primary recipe that we make everybody go through. I was very disappointed in the outcome of the last election. My biggest disappointment was the loss of the open primary measure. I think that's where I hang my hope for things turning. If we can get centrist people elected, like we're seeing in our nonpartisan elections, and if Republicans and Democrat elected officials and candidates are out saying yes, the system is broken, let's adopt let's endorse an open primary system. I think that would create goodwill and credibility for everyone.
What do you want us to do, Gary? Are we taking questions, or shall I just fire it?
No, drama, no. I feel like it's a start of a podcast or something. So I think maybe if you have another question or two, and then maybe another audience question.
Okay. Well, John, we're showing that a little bit. I was part of the 40% that voted for that proposition, as I suspect many here were. We have the same system fundamentally that we had about 10 years ago, and yet people have less confidence in it. Has the character of individual politicians in this country changed? And if so, what do you think has led to that?
I think the system's been hijacked by folks who have an agenda. I think money has taken over. I think a lot of the what you see going on is people in a very calculated way wanting to bake the system because a lot of the people that we're voting for are their professions are running campaigns for very profitable interest groups, and so that's kind of money is follow the money in this thing, and so I think it has gotten more mean-spirited, more partisan, certainly, but and I think when I look at that and I see some people that are genuinely mean and angry coming in, I think it's not like it used to be because I think they got more riding on it. They've got their personal fortunes are tied to this system that they're creating.
Yeah, and I would just say, I think to any politician, though, you got to start by looking inward. And I think it's a little bit fitting that I'm having this conversation with Adrian, because I would say if I look back on my time, I have very few regrets about what I did and what I said. But one of the things is I wish I would have gotten to know Adrian a little better as a person when running against him, because I think that humanization of the process makes you see people.
I would have kicked your ass. No, I'm just kidding.
We don't want to go to this, but so I hope that I believe in system changes. I think the incentives are different. I think social media plays a role in it.
Yeah.
But I do think that all elected officials have a responsibility to sort of say, what are they doing to contribute to it? Do you feel like you've ever contributed to it, or have you been just perfect?
Oh, I've contributed. Of course I have. I'm a pugilist, just like you are, and actually, well, whatever. Look, we shouldn't apologize for the fact that American politics is a blood sport. It's always been a blood sport. Some of the founders themselves were writing in letters to the editor and just decrying and demeaning the character of their opponents and calling them names and saying things about their mothers and all this other sorts of stuff. That was pretty serious for the day. So the notion that now it's so much more rough and social media is taking everybody to this place and that place, I think that's a little bit of self-victimization that I kind of get away from. We have a responsibility to be able to tell the difference, however, between what is within season and what is out of season, right? We had a rough campaign against each other. You didn't go easy on me. And we are on our second thing together. And no, but I'm not, what I'm trying to say is, I didn't like it. It didn't feel good, but I don't think it was wholly inappropriate for this season, for the moment, for that thing where it was you against me. But once you got elected, once I get elected, once you got elected, then we have to govern. Yeah. And I think it's a little silly to think that we can't separate a political contest, which is an A versus B. This is not about success. It's about victory. And I distinguish those two very clearly. You had a victory over me, but you and I, as successive county recorders, had success in administering and maintaining good systems. You see, we were fighting against one another. You had a victory. Together, we have maintained success. So I think we have to get look at it a little bit differently and allow the pugilism. A lot of these personal identifying information markers are not available to the public. You can get the voter rolls. You can find out your address, your party affiliation. That's all public information. It's all these other things that someone could use to steal your identity. That's the stuff that we don't want to let go.
Last word, Social Security.
That stuff, right. Now, why they've said, well, we want to make sure you're following this process under the Help America Vote Act. And then they said, we want to make sure that you don't have a bunch of dead voters on your rolls. And then they said, well, we want to make sure that you don't have a lot of illegal voters on your voter rolls. So their rationale for the request has shifted. And that's what's suspect. And that's why I won't give it to them. Not only is it illegal under Arizona state law and federal law for me to give them the entire voter roll, but I think they're trying to build this gigantic database so that they can go off and just pretend like they're just going to cancel people or look for people. I don't know what they're going to do with that data, but I'm not going to give it to them.
One database to rule them all. Right? Okay, how many states did they ask? How many states did they ask?
Oh, there's litigation ongoing right now, and I think I want to say, just off the top of my head, New Hampshire, Maine, Michigan, Colorado, California, Oregon, Washington.
Litigation kids, right?
They have all been sued for the information. Right. They're pushing back against it. We have yet to be sued here in Arizona.
And how have any states given it up?
I think Indiana did.
Okay, I think one state did.
Yeah, Indiana did because their Secretary of State there, they said, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all, so I'll leave it right there.
So far, most secretaries of state and other election officials,
Republican and Democrat alike, are saying no.
I think we have time for one more question. We have one in the back, all the way in the back. Yes, sir. What's your name?
My name is Jim Stein. Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
There you go.
What would be the question?
So my question has to do with elections and the golden thread. And like Sir Bolick, maintaining that golden thread that ties us all together, so important to our democracy. Right, we had Elon Musk who offered sweepstakes chances for votes. Mm-hmm. I'd like to hear what you all thought of that. Some of you know about Kalshi and prediction markets and taking bets on elections. I'd like your reaction to that. That's tied to the administration. And, Donald Trump Jr. is a consultant to Kalshi and owner of Poly Market. And, I'd be interested in your comments.
Okay, so let's start with the Musk component. So maybe I've gotten the chance to work with a decent bit over the years. So John, in Pennsylvania, he says anyone who registers to vote as of this time gets enrolled in a lottery, and the winner of this lottery wins $1 million. Now, set aside the legality of that. Do you think how does that rub you?
I'm not overly bothered by it. I mean, I'm kind of a free enterprise, free speech guy. I mean, so if he wants to throw his money down the drain and create a lottery to incentivize people to register to vote, good for him. I mean, yes, he's obviously got a political agenda, and he's trying to help a particular persuasion and a particular candidate. But I'm sorry, I kind of see it as I got bigger fish to fry in terms of getting upset about things.
Would you send that to voting itself?
No, well, so we're going to have a lottery, and I'm going to just give it to somebody that cast a vote?
Cast a vote. If you tell me you cast a vote, I will, I'll draw a name for that hat and win $1 million.
Look, George Washington bought a shitload of whiskey when he first got elected to be president for folks that showed up and voted, okay? This isn't new. I'm not sanctioning it at this stage of the game, but we've got to check ourselves a little bit with history. This is something that is a very, very well-worn tradition in American politics that there's some little rewards here and there, and we've tried to tamp that down, and I think appropriately so. But just because Elon Musk is saying if you vote, you're in a lottery for $1 million, I'm kind of with John on this, and I should be a little more of a purist maybe, but
Think about
like is that like the biggest thing? Now, betting on who's going to win and lose, that second part of that question, that's a different story. That's a very different story.
Why is that? Arizona's home to lots of neat innovations. Should we not be home to this one?
No.
He's going to throw a fight, throw an election.
No, well, one of the examples, we were talking about this a little bit earlier. I mean, let's say I decide to get into a race. I don't know, maybe a re-election for Secretary of State, okay? And then I create somewhere online line for Secretary of State. And I have a company and I bet on myself. Huge money I bet on myself to lose.
John, you feel the same?
I mean, does
Now
that
you're starting to bother me a little bit.
see? So, but again,
the
I think
sanctity of Las Vegas has got to be preserved in all of this. But I kind of like, again, the more creative ways we can come up to get out the vote. I mean, there are people that are sitting in campaign offices all over the country, scratching their heads, trying to think of clever ways to get people to incentivize people to vote. And so, if from a purist point of view, of course, I want people to vote for altruistic reasons. But having been involved in some campaigns, Julie Spilsbury will give you a cinnamon roll if you vote for her. I can say that right now. And it's okay.
She gets out, let's just be clear, she gets out cinnamon rolls. If you vote, that's okay.
Okay, that's
For
right.
her, that's okay, but she's just giving out cinnamon rolls.
Julie, I think that's great. It's cinnamon rolls. Everybody loves cinnamon rolls.
I see her nodding her head. I think
I'm
she'll do it.
gonna issue a memo that says that that's not illegal to give cinnamon rolls to people.
No, my line is that I will bring you cinnamon rolls before I'm ever going to yell at you. That's my line.
Short question. He was operating in some real legal, some dubious waters, and so what he was doing might have been unlawful. Now we're talking about the ethics of it. I know it's time to get Joe Walsh up on the stage. I want to say one quick word. Apparently, Arizona chose one of its 5 days to rain, and that delayed the tarmac, so I apologize for being late. But I will just say that if you like conversations like these that cross political partisan divides, please think of doing more of Principles First. There's a good contingent here that comes to the annual event in Washington, D.C. It's a great event. I hope that that's something that you can consider in February. And then I will just say, let's give it up to two great public servants, Mayor John Giles, the Secretary of State.
Good. Always good to be with you, Jim.
Good to have you back, Blair.
Thank you.
Glad you made it.
Yeah, thank you. Pleasure. Thank you, Greg. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Comments there. You can look at tell you what summit is held
20th to the 22nd.
20th to the 22nd, February 20th to the 22nd, and this year we are in what's the town?
National Harbor.
National Harbor, Maryland,
Gay.
at the Gaylord Hotel.
That's a mic? So cool.
Not too intrusive.
That people together, talking about these issues, thinking about these issues, like-minded people who are very concerned about protecting our democracy and where we are headed. And so I highly recommend that you attend that. Secondly, I would also like to remind you, when you leave today, there's some QR codes on the tables. If you would like to volunteer for Principles First Arizona, we're just getting ourselves going here in terms of trying to get more action-oriented. We've got a great group to work on this event. We would love to get more people involved on that. And if you could go out and click that QR code, it'll take you just to a quick Google form where you can send us your information and get connected with before that. Going into our next introduction, Joe Walsh, speaking of the summit, brought the energy to the place. Let me just skip your
No. Sure.
Joe is a former U.S. Congressman, nationally recognized voice on civic engagement and democratic accountability. During his time at Congress, he served on key committees shaping policy and advocating for principled leadership. Walsh is known for his commitment to transparency, the rule of law, and fostering citizen participation in governance. Beyond his legislative career, he continues to engage audiences through public speaking, media appearances, civic initiative aimed at educating Americans on the importance of democratic norms and active citizenship. This is all stuff you do.
Stop. No more.
All stuff you do. But more than anything, he brings an energy to this that is unrivaled.
That's because I'm the last speaker, and this is it. We're going to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. You need to step off the chair.
Do I need that? I don't need that, right?
You probably don't need it.
No.
Oh, you need it for the...
I have a lapel.
There's one there if you want to...
Okay. Can everybody hear me? Yes? No. Ow! I'm getting old. Oh, okay. You can hear me? I have a horrible habit. I cannot sit and I cannot stand still. But I'll have to learn. I don't need two of them.
That goes further.
No, I'm fine. I'm fine. Thank you. And again, I will be brief. Brittany and Heath usually have me come up to fire people up as we all get out of here and go on to our lives to try to save this democracy that is under threat.
Joe, that mic has a longer cord. You're stressing me out. You move too much.
Okay, how's that? But, this doesn't... Shush. Oh, my God. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I will be brief, and we will open this up as well to any questions. Adrian and Stephen both left. Stephen looked horrible. He looked exhausted, right? He needs to go home and go to sleep. Oh, there he is! Oh, no! Busted! By the way, you look really good for a long day. It's on a plane all day. So we can open this up to questions to Stephen, to our favorite mayor. Forget Adrian. Adrian didn't look good, did he? Let me start here, and let me be brief. Everything that every speaker tonight has said, amen, right? We got to get along. We got to improve the way we run elections. We got to sit down with people we disagree with. Our politicians got to be better. We got to elect better people. Amen, amen. All of that. I'm going to be the Debbie Downer. And I love coming to Arizona. I love when Brittany asks me to go anywhere in the country to get out of D.C. because I love listening to John and Stephen and Adrian. Because if we put John and Stephen and Adrian in Washington and put them in charge of that damn monstrosity in Washington, and if there were 435 more like them, things would be better. But there aren't. There aren't. And not only are there not, the system's broken, both parties got issues, all of that is true. But this is not normal now. There's nothing to smile about now, because the very thing our founders feared is in the White House. And I feel like there's been an elephant in the room tonight. And again, I love listening to all of this. And I love speaking to people who disagree with me. But Trump is his name. My former political party right now is an authoritarian embracing cult. We've only got 2 political parties in this country. I wish we had 7, but we have 2. And one of them, their leader, pick your word, he's the very thing our founders feared. So all this other stuff that when I'm watching my language, all this other stuff we've got to work on is right and spot on. But our house is burning down. Like this is the message I take everywhere. And Brittany, I always apologize because I'm supposed to uplift you. I'm not going to uplift you. I want to scare the hell out of you. Our house is burning down right now. That thing needs to be stopped. I was on CNN 2 days ago, and I apologized for not being shocked at what Trump said 2 days ago. 2 days ago, the President of the United States said to the country and the world that the mayor of Chicago and the governor of my home state of Illinois should be in jail. President of the United States said that. They should be imprisoned. And I watched 2 other segments before me on CNN, and they talked about this, and some of the commentators said that's just Trump. And shrug of the shoulders, and oh well, and a smile, and that's no! My God, and so then I went on and I said, my God, if we've lost the capacity to still be shocked at what he says and does, we deserve to be ruled by a tyrant. A week and a half ago, he stood in front of 800 generals. Again, I'll remind you, the President of the United States. He got up after his 17-year-old Secretary of Defense talked to him. Then Trump gets up and does his hour and a half of bullshit and lies. He's full of shit. I'm going to use that now. But then Donald Trump in front of 800 of our top generals around the world, and he summoned them all in that room to make a point. But he looked these 800 generals in the eyes and he said, there's a war going on in our country right now. We're at war in this country. And he looked at the generals and he said, you are going to play a role in this war against American citizens. And again, 5-alarm fire. Again, half the country just rolls their eyes because it's him. And then yesterday, he said, I've temporarily gotten rid of freedom of speech. Nobody can burn the flag. I've temporarily removed freedom of speech. We can't normalize this. Yes, I want us all to get along, kumbaya. And yes, I want the parties to get along. And yes, I want to fix the system. And I want to change the way we vote. We have a broken political system. I want to do all of that. But that thing in the White House needs to be defeated now. And I love our justice who was here. And it's not his job. It's mine. It's yours. We have to get partisan now, because our house is burning down. I'm almost done. Remember what the 9/11 Commission said a year after 9/11 when they put out their report and they said these haunting words? 9/11, they said, was a failure of imagination. Remember those words? We couldn't imagine that terrorists would get behind, I always say the wheel of a plane, would fly planes into buildings. The 9/11 Commission said it was a failure of our intelligence people's imagination. They did not imagine that scenario. This is what we've done in this era. We have just failed to imagine how low he'll go, how bad he'll get. If we were all in this room, Brittany, 20 years ago, and I would have told everybody in this room 25 years ago, you know what? There's going to be an American election, I don't know, in the year 2020. Imagine it's 2000. We're all in, and I say in 2020, an American president's going to lose an election and he will refuse to accept the result. You would have looked at me like I was smoking something. an American president loses a result and would refuse to concede, you wouldn't have believed me. And then I would have told you there's going to be an election in America in 2020. That guy who refused to accept his loss, he's going to commit crimes trying to overthrow an election in this country. You would have slapped me because you could not have imagined such a thing. So when I go on TV or I go on my podcast and I say, you know what? I can't stand here before you right now. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't know that we'll have elections next year. Oh! You're looking at me like I'm a wild man. I don't know that we'll have midterm elections next year. I think he's going to do everything he can to try to stop them from happening. I know he's going to screw with them. I know he's going to cheat. He's already doing it. He hired an election denier to be head of election security in the Department of Homeland Security. I don't know if we're going to have an election. He's putting the military on our streets to cause chaos and violence to try to stop the election from happening. Now, you can say, Joe Walsh, I love you, but you're crazy. And I would just answer you by saying, imagine the worst. That's all. Let's not have another January 6th. Let's be ready this time. Just imagine the worst. I close. I'm a Democrat. All right. I went from the Tea Party to the Democratic Party in 14 years. I still can't believe it. I mean it. I became a Democrat 4 months ago. I became a Democrat because I think we are called right now to do anything and everything we can do to stop the house from burning down before we come together in kumbaya and fix everything else. And that's my plea to everybody in this room. I did not imagine a year ago that I'd ever become a Democrat. I disagree with the Democrats on most public policy issues. But we have two parties in this country, and only one of our parties believes in democracy, the Constitution, the rule of law, pluralism, and basic human decency. Easy for me. It's all that matters now. I'm pro-Israel. You're pro-Palestinian. I don't give a damn about that right now. I care about this democracy. Our illustrious crew up here a little bit ago said our democracy is challenged right now. Bullshit. Bullshit. Our democracy is falling down right now. And if you believe that, you don't need to follow me and become a Democrat. One of the reasons I became a Democrat was to try to recruit other conservatives and Republicans to do it at this unique moment in time. But the point I'm making is we are all called in this moment, this very unique moment, to do something we just didn't imagine we could do. We are all called this next year to do whatever we can do, to think outside the box and do things we never thought we could do. If you kind of sort of believe a little bit of what I believe, that our house is burning down, and that he is a unique threat, and my former political party is an utter unique threat. If you believe that, then you got to push yourself and do stuff you've never done. I don't care how young or old you are. We will get back one day to our basic principles. We will get back one day to electing maybe Republicans and Democrats who subscribe to democracy, the Constitution, the rule of law, pluralism, and basic human decency. I want to believe, I'm a dark Irishman, but I want to believe we'll get back there. But there ain't no guarantee And we're not there now. And my former political party, I know there are Republicans in the room, but if you're a Republican and you believe Trump is a threat, there's no place for you in this party right now. You're politically homeless, you're an independent, or you're a Democrat trying to help the Democrats get their act together. And it's going to be this way for a while. So what? We happen to be alive at this moment in American history. This is really cool. This is our calling. Which is why it's so valuable what Heath and Brittany and Principles First does. And I am closing. Because while we hang in this wilderness, as our democracy and as our justice said, the rule of law is falling down. We all got to stay together. We all got to be part of a community. We got to listen to each other and break bread with each other and adhere to those basic, remind ourselves of these basic American principles. It's like we're hanging in the wilderness for a while, doing everything we can do to defeat that immediate threat. Look, the Democrats have issues. Oh man, I could tell you some stories. I've only been a Democrat 4 months. The party's got issues. But the Democratic Party, will defend democracy and the rule of law till the cows come home. As I used to say, the Democratic Party, in my mind, I love them, big tent, me and Zoran. By the way, that's a big tent. You put Joe Walsh and Zoran Mamdani on the same team, that is a humongous tent. But Zoran Mamdani and Joe Walsh will defend democracy and the rule of law. And it sucks, but the other major party has declared war on those two things. So it's our job to do something about that. But while we're trying to win that and defeat that, we need a home, a constant home, where we regularly get together to remind ourselves of what we believe in. And that's why Principles First is so damn valuable. So, you got a choice. As I said to a class earlier today, every day he does 1,000 things that make you pull your hair out. Every day he does 1,000 things that go against every principle in this country. You can either get down about that, and we all do, or you can use that to motivate yourself and get involved and do everything you can do this next year to make sure that the Republicans lose the House and maybe the Senate. That's our, whether you're a Democrat or not, that's your job if you believe our house is burning down. God love you all. Thank you. Questions until 11, right?
Yeah, question.
No, we don't have to do, okay.
Okay, so I am doing something because I'm using my voice as a Republican that's getting recalled by Crane Farmer Hale to speak out a little. So, but Joe, you said we have to do things we've never done, and other than switching parties, what are you talking about? You didn't give us very many specifics. And
Purposely.
I know. I want to hear some.
Okay. How many? Can I just poll the room? And we're all old. Who cares? Life's short. We're all going to be dead in 110 years. How many Republicans, current Republicans in the room? Raise them. Love it. Pride and everything, baby. How many current independents in the room? How many current Democrats in the room? We got a pretty balanced room. One more question. How many people agree with almost everything I said that this is a unique threat in the White House? Amen, brothers and sisters. So what can we do? Then no matter what you are, a Republican, an independent, and a Democrat, your job, at least at the state and local level, is to defeat Work to defeat every damn Republican you can next year at the state and local level, because any Republican that wins a primary has to be on Team Trump at the state and federal level, not talking local. So all of us, you either formally become a Democrat like me, and I wrestle with it every night, or you are a temporary Democrat, or you're an independent, or you're a Republican, and at least at the state and federal level, you're voting against what that is. We need to protest like we've never protested. There's a big No Kings next one coming up October 18th. I'm going to be speaking somewhere. I can tell you this. Somebody in Trump's White House told me 2 months ago that these No Kings protests are beginning to scare them a little bit, but the White House doesn't think they'll grow. Screw that. So our job is to protest and make them grow, because they're aware of that, and that will concern them. We all got to kick the Democratic Party in the butt at the state and federal level to fight. I want somebody to give Chuck Schumer an energy drink every day for the next year. Or maybe stronger than that. Hakeem Jeffries, all of them. We need Democrats to be fighters. We need Democrats to believe what you and I believe, that our house is burning down. And it's up to us to tell them that, and it's up to us to penalize Democrats if they don't meet this moment. Final thing I'll say is vote and get everybody you know to vote. Oh, by the way, second final thing I'll say. We all have circles of influence. Some of us have humongous platforms. Some of us have smaller platforms. Our job the next year is to keep our circles informed. Once a week, twice a week, everybody you know on Facebook, your email list, send them one unbelievably dishonest, un-American thing Trump did that week. Keep them informed. Final thing is, I love that smile. But I'm coming at you. Maybe not you. If you believe this is an unprecedented time, and I do, we are going to be called, or let me rephrase that, many Americans will be called in this next year to engage in civil disobedience. My God. Look what he's doing. I go on TV and I call him a fascist. What do you mean, Joe? Well, he's got mass federal agents grabbing 82-year-old Latino grandmothers who've been in this country 30 years, grabbing them off the street, throwing them into an unmarked white van, detaining them, deporting them to some strange country. Okay? This cruelty is not who or what we are. You're going to see a point in America now, really quickly now, where average Americans are going to peacefully interfere with what ICE is doing. Interfere if that son of a you-know-what continues to try to militarize our streets. You're going to see average Americans peacefully interfere with what our military is doing on our streets. And by the way, when you engage in civil disobedience, that means you are knowingly, peacefully ignoring the government and breaking the law. You're prepared to face the consequences. I think we're getting there. And by the way, I love that look on your face, because I adore you, because you look pained by that. And you should be pained. We all should be pained by that. That average Americans are going to have to peacefully break the law to stop masked federal agents from grabbing 82-year-old Latino grandmothers off the streets. But that's what we're going to have to do.
Who are also average Americans.
Huh?
Who are also average Americans.
Freaking men. Thank you. And by the way, what's his name? Bad Bunny? Bunny Bad? Bad Bunny Boy? American! Puerto Rico. You had a number of my former MAGA influencers who said, he's not from America, he's from Puerto Rico. Look, I'm former MAGA, and I'm a Catholic boy. My penance is to engage with MAGA every day to try to save some souls. That's not yours, that's mine. All the way in the back.
I just wanted to answer.
By the way, stop. Hold that question. This is what I'm talking about. You're tearing up. You know why you're tearing up? Because you love this country. Oh man, would all of us feel this way? Sorry.
I just wanted to make a comment. So I served in the National Guard. I am absolutely horrified at what is happening right now. And I think that you're calling for civil disobedience, what they think is absolutely appropriate. And I think we should also know that our National Guardsmen they are being forced to do this against their will, and this is going to be a serious moral injury for our service members. And I hope that Arizona Guardsmen don't have to do this. And should they, please rally against them and remember that they took an oath to protect our Constitution as well. And it's going to take a lot of effort for them to have to patrol their own streets against their own neighbors and friends and cammen. And for our youth, I'm very sad. I'm a parent. And that's the one thing I haven't really heard being talked about is our duty to our children. And the only version of conservatism that they know is Trump's.
Yeah.
The turning point version. I'm going to say it. I think it's disgusting, and I'm so sorry for what you're going through. But those are just the 2 points I wanted to make.
Thank you. If I could leap when I'm done, I'm going to give you a big hug. Thank you. Thank you for your service. Thank you for what you do. And by the way, we do this for our children. Thank you.
Sir, my big concern is that we are in the minority of this country now. And that is a surprise.
Just explain to me who the we is.
We who think the country is under attack.
I think I disagree with that. And I come from MAGA. MAGA is bigger than people in this room know. And you can all be honest with yourselves. A lot of people still didn't think he'd win again last November. So it is bigger. MAGA is bigger. And the Democratic Party is not doing well. And so there are a lot of voters in the middle who every 2 years, they just try to figure out which side do I hate the least, and that's where they go. But I'll tell you what, to the National Guard. By the way, our men and women of the National Guard have lives, jobs, and families, and this jerk in the White House is pulling them out. By the way, as a former congressman, this is what America looks like without a Congress. Again, right? 3 branches of government, screw that. For 9 months, we've had 2. We've had 2 branches of government, and the courts, the judiciary, has been playing catch up for 9 months. So it is us. It is us. I don't want to phrase this wrong. Okay, I'm going to phrase it horribly. You know what the only beauty of Trump is? The beauty of Trump is he's forcing all of us in real time to decide what kind of country we want to be. Because he's so bad and so dishonest and so cruel and so lawless and so corrupt, and he's acting out on all of these things, i.e. trying to put the military on our streets, trying to turn us into a police state. He's going into Home Depot parking lots to grab day laborers, going into courthouses to grab immigrants who are only appearing for their hearings because he's doing this horrible, un-American, cruel shit. We're seeing it in real time. And so he's forcing us to make a decision. It's kind of cool. We have to decide right now, is this the kind of country we want to be? Do we want to be the kind of country that grabs 82-year-old Latino women off of the street? Yes or no? No. And so He's forcing us to make that decision. And I believe on that issue, like other issues, on that issue, I'll go to my grave, hopefully not a while, believing and knowing most Americans are not cruel. I'm an immigration hawk, man. Most Americans, you're a violent criminal and you're in this country illegally, get the hell out. But most Americans do not want what's going on now, not even close. And the videos of what's going on now, like you all are engaged, principles first. You're all engaged and involved. The average American doesn't pay attention to stuff. But the average American is seeing these videos every day. That video the other day of a preacher, a minister, shot in the head for just standing there with a rubber bullet from a rooftop. A gazillion views. There was one, oh my God, there was one again yesterday outside of a school. Masked agents got out of a van and grabbed the mother dropping off her kids at school. These videos are seeping through to regular Americans, and we're in the majority on this stuff. Amen. And if we're not, I'm going to find another line of work. Yes, sir.
You know, I've been coming to these things, Principles First, Renew America.
God bless you.
All of those, all the things for the last however many years, back and forth with you. You are the fire chief, right? You've been telling us, you've been smelling smoke, and you've been like, it all came to fruition. Here we are. Who's going to organize the fire department? Because every one of these groups that come together when it comes time to take action, we do it, and then it folds. What's next?
Chuck Schumer. And Brittany and Heath can answer this better than I can. There are so many disparate groups out there. And too many of these groups don't work together. And that's tough. And you'll notice when Trump won again in November, there was no, remember when Trump won the first time, right away groups organized. And the moms with the pink hats, they marched in Washington right away. This time when Trump won, none of that happened. Everybody kind of just sulked and went their other way. And then and there was no organizing. There was no fire chiefs. There was none of that. But then slowly over the last few months, after he got sworn in and started doing all this cruel, un-American stuff, from the grassroots, people just started to bubble up. There's no fire chief, but there are a hell of a lot of volunteers ready to put out a fire and putting out fires. I don't know that we'll have a fire chief before the election next year. Our hope is that in 28, there'll be a fire chief who will be the nominee running against Tucker Carlson for president. Oh, don't you dare laugh, remember? No failure of imagination. But you're right. What we need is men and women, a bunch of them, who talk like this, who get this righteously pissed off. That's what we want. They'll bubble up.
You're a former member of Congress. Why do the Republicans not want to do their job? They're Article 1 of the Constitution, and they become subordinate to the executive, which is Article 2. They don't want to do trade, which is Article 1, Section 8. They don't want to do taxation. You know, he's dictating the terms. So part of the pressure needs to come on people that don't want to do their jobs. You're worthless if you're going to Congress and you're not going to stand up for what the Constitution enables you, authorizes, and mandates that you do.
So I said facetiously 15 minutes ago, we don't have a Congress. We only have two branches of government right now. We do not have a legislative branch. And they've done that consciously. And the reason's simple. I came out publicly against Trump 7 years ago. I was Mr. MAGA, Mr. Tea Party, Mr. Conservative, blah, 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 blah. The minute I stood up in the public square and I said I oppose that thing, I lost everything. I took a blowtorch to my career. My friend and colleague Adam Kinzinger did the same thing a few years ago. You know the answer to your question. It's a nice job being a congressman. I want to keep the job. I got a right-wing talk radio show. I want to keep that show because I'm making money and I've got ratings. It's about staying in power. It's about keeping the gig. It's about keeping the following and the voters in the audience. I'll tell you one scary thing, though, before we all go to bed tonight. And I got to get on a red eye and fly back to D.C. 7 years ago, when I stood up publicly and said I oppose Trump, damn near every one of my former Republican colleagues in the House 7 years ago contacted me privately and said, Joe, I agree with what you're saying about him, but I can't say it publicly. That has changed. You're a Republican now and you come up out against Trump, you're not going to get that because the party now has more true, believing crazies who believe the stuff he says and support the stuff he says than just cynical Republicans who just want to keep their gig. 7 years ago, MAGA was kind of like, not the fringe of the party, but on the outside, right there on the party. I'm Tea Party. MAGA now is the Republican Party. It is. And especially in the House, more true believers now are members of the House. I'm glad Brittany, gorgeous, smart, engaged Brittany, is still a Republican. But I'm a lot older than she is. That party, the party I knew and grew up in, will not come back in my lifetime. She's only 16. It might come back in Brittany's. Are we done? I could, because my flight is not till 11:52. Brittany, what time is it? 8:25. Yeah, no, hey, just hold that thought. Just believe what it is. Don't be surprised. Imagine the worst, and just all of us prepare for it and try to defeat it. Don't be so cynical that we can't believe that anymore. God love you. Keep your faith.
Thank you. With that ends our program tonight. I do want to ask you who join us, be part of us, attend the events, commit yourself to talking more about these issues and stay for that. We'll continue to protect our country. Thank you all.